Good evening from PLUGHITZ Studios. I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we are here on a special night with F5 Live, refreshing technology, for December 22nd, 2017, episode 489. This show is a proud part of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. This week, Apple is slowing you down, Nintendo is powering you up, and Eric Schmidt is letting the alphabet go. Wherever you are and however you're accessing our show, whether it be Facebook or YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music Podcasts, the Podcast Play app in the Windows Store, our live stream partners, livestream.com, Periscope, Twitch, and Mixer, or of course on our apps, PLUGHITZlive.com/apps. Thank you for making us a part of your day. There are two ways that you can do that. Normally, you can join us on Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern by going to f5live.tv/join us. Obviously, tonight is a little different because Sunday is Christmas Eve. We know nobody wants to join us for a live show on Christmas Eve. And next week, we will be doing something similar. The nice thing about joining us live is that you can chat with us in the studio during the show and give us your feedback on the topics as we talk about them. In particular, we like to get feedback on the Pilch Point, which will be on in just a little bit with a little guy who's hiding off screen right now. That'll be a lot of fun. We want to hear what you have to say about that. I know very little about it myself, so it'll be a really fun topic to talk about if you're watching live. If you can't join us live, that is all right. You can subscribe by going to PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. There you can see F5 Live and the Pilch Point, as well as our other series, including our special events feed, which I believe I saw, I think CES gave me a countdown earlier today that it's like 15 days or something. And then our special events feed will be firing some stuff up again. And all of our other series are there as well. Obviously, if you're joining us live, we appreciate you coming in on a Friday. It's a new thing for us. I don't know that we've ever done a Friday night show. So it'll be a fun little experiment to see how active we are. I guess with that, that's the spiel. Avram, how has your shorter than normal time since last we talked been?
Oh, it's been an interesting week. Just a lot of stuff preparing for the holiday because we want to make sure that we still have, shopping advice for people who are shopping at the last minute, and we want to have, advice to update all of our articles about what to do when you first open your new computer, your new laptop, your new phone, so your new game console. So. It's actually been, and on top of that, we're trying to lock down the schedule for CES.
Sure.
Which thankfully starts later than it has in the past, which is great because we're going to actually have, I guess, the better part of a week before we have after New Year's.
Yeah, it's so nice because last year our team at least the team that flew out of Tampa, which I guess was 8 of the 9. We left New Year's morning at like 4:30 or 5 or something like that. So, yeah, it'll be nice to not be flying on New Year's Day this year.
Yeah, I mean, I like to be able to, be a little bit back in the swing of things after a long New Year's weekend or whatever before I got to jump on a plane. So, it's good to... I still have some appointments left, so if anyone wants to show me anything cool, I still have some space left. Show me some robots, show me some headsets.
Yeah, show him some robots so that he can show me some robots. For sure. And speaking of CES, for those of you who may not have been following along, the Tech Podcast Network live broadcast is back this year. And our team will be taking a spot every day in the live stream, which is different from how we've done it in the past. Normally, one of our hosts has done 1 or 2 stints. This year, we will be doing 4, including myself on Thursday from 9 a.m. to noon Vegas time, where I'll be speaking to somebody from the Consumer Technology Association, which will be a lot of fun, and from a porn company, all in the same 3-hour block. So that'll be fascinating. So obviously the coverage is going to be very different than it's been in the past, and it should be a lot of fun. F5live.tv/CES, or once we get closer to it, just going to the homepage will take you right to our CES live stream. With that, I know we've got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight, so let's get down to it. This week's Nifty Gifties on F5 Live is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Still deals. Chances of getting stuff by Christmas are pretty slim at this point, but you can still save $200 on a Surface Pro with an Intel Core i5 and 128 gig SSD. There's all kinds of games available for the Xbox One, One S, One X, and of course Windows 10 PCs, and a lot of deals going on right now, and that you can get in time for the holidays. There's the Surface Book 2 available, and of course a bunch of other deals on things like mixed reality headsets and the Xbox One S and X both have some deals going on, and you can find out all of that by going to f5live.tv/Microsoft. And as we tend to do, we start with Microsoft and move right into Apple. For a number of years, iPhone owners have complained that as their phones get a little older, and in particular when new models come out, they feel that their phones get slower. There's been an Area 51 style conspiracy theory that Apple is purposely slowing down phones to encourage you to buy the next generation, the next model. Apple has very adamantly denied these charges for a number of years. And then the guys at Geekbench decided to run a test because even they started to believe that their phones were getting slower over time. And so they took a phone that was fully updated, that they had tested early in its life, that had been well used, and it turned out that absolutely the performance of the phone had been cut significantly. So with that, they started to come up with theories, and the main theory was, well, maybe the battery? So they changed out the battery, and the phone went almost back up to specs from when it was brand new. Not fully, but of course there were 2 generations of iOS who had come out that were intended for significantly newer phones, so it's not all that surprising that over time, a more advanced operating system will take a little bit more of the system's resources. So that's not out of the question. But changing the battery absolutely brought performance back. And when they published this, and a lot of publications covered it, Apple came out on Wednesday and said, yeah, that's true. We are absolutely slowing down iPhone 6 and 6S with older batteries because of the problem that we noticed last year, where when the phones got either really cold or the batteries got really old, the phones would just turn off. This was our way of preventing the phones from just turning off. Now, you can.
How does slowing it down keep it from getting cold?
No, not from getting cold, but it's particularly about the old batteries. They can't solve the cold problem. I guess technically turning up the specs might keep it from getting cold. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the opposite.
But in particular, they were trying to deal with the issues from... Oh, I bet I can explain it. Lithium-ion batteries below a certain temperature start to perform worse, and if Apple's tests led them to believe that a poorly performing battery was leading to the unexpected shutoffs, it makes sense that lowering the processor capabilities would compensate for the battery drain from being cold. But
doesn't the battery heat up when you use it more?
Perhaps.
Or is it really just heat up from being charged?
In general, it might just from being charged. Now, obviously, the first response to this was to call BS on Apple for a number of reasons. People responded negatively, seemingly on all fronts. First, there were people saying, there's no way this has only been going on for a year, and there's no way this is the reason you're doing it. But again, that gets us back to UFO-style conspiracy theories, so we'll push those aside. And let's take Apple at their word. I have a personal weird relationship with Apple as a company, but in general, I tend to take a lot of what they say at their word. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's assume that what they said is true. It then brings back a topic. Well, people then complained, but you didn't tell us that you were affecting the performance of a product that we own at your discretion and not ours, which I totally agree with. That seems like a really weird move to make. At least let the users know, hey, there's a problem with your phone. We're turning on this setting. If you go into the settings, you can turn it off, but no, your phone may just randomly turn off whenever it wants to. Okay, because for me, I might make the decision that I don't care. Maybe the phone occasionally randomly turns off. I want the performance. But you may decide I need the consistency, because for me, the iPhone that I carry is mostly for Pokemon Go, so I don't necessarily care. But Avram, if he was carrying an iPhone, it might be for more important things than playing a silly video game, and therefore would prefer the consistency of knowing it was on to having the specs. So, it seems like just letting people know. But in the end, go ahead.
I think this really is begging the question of why are their batteries so crappy? Like, other companies don't have this problem that we know of anyway.
Right.
Other
Fair
companies
enough.
don't have this problem. I mean, people complain that their Android phones slow down over time too. So, but
But that usually has to do with efficiencies that were built into the original version of Android that shipped with it, and maybe not putting as much time into getting Oreo working on the new device, but wanting to push it out. You spend a lot of time on the version of Android that comes with it, making sure your device works really well with it, and you don't have control over future versions and things like that. I can see how an Android device would do that. It's the same thing you see with Windows devices over time, But yeah. You don't hear about an older battery causing an Android device to perform worse
or turn
it off.
Right. So I mean, I would more believe their explanation. I would be less skeptical of their explanation if their explanation was this battery is running out of cycles. You've had it X amount of time. Mm-hmm. It has 80% charge left or something like that. So we don't want you to have bad battery life. So for that reason, we're throttling the CPU. But to say that it gets cold and then it turns off, there are a lot of people reporting theirs turning off. And if that's the case, why does it only happen on older batteries, not newer ones?
Right. There's definitely a lot of questions to be asked about it. The fact that the guys at Geekbench literally replaced their battery and saw their performance increase does mean that Apple is watching the battery. in some way, shape, or form. Maybe that's how they're determining the age, just to be able to slow it, or I don't know. But the fact that they changed their battery and then boom, everything was almost back to new, definitely is an indication that the slowdown procedure is related to the battery, but the reasoning still doesn't quite do it for me, because I've got an old Dell laptop that runs on a lithium-ion battery that's probably 8 years old, 7 years old. I think it's a first-gen Core i3. It's a really old computer with its original battery, and it doesn't last long, but it doesn't just turn off randomly.
Yeah, I've never seen that happen with a lithium-ion battery with a battery before. Period.
No, right. I worked in electronics retail for just short of a decade. I sold phones from 2002 through 2011. Wow, have I been out of it that long? Wow. So for a very long time, and from flip phones to smartphones, I never heard of a phone turning off at 65% battery just because the battery was getting old. I think either there's something wrong with the way they architect the power to the processor, or there's something wrong in the operating system itself, and they don't know what the problem is. They don't know how to fix it.
Yes, or this explanation. I mean, so here's the question. If they had to put this in as a fix, then someone must have experienced it as a bug at one point, right?
Yeah. A little over a year ago, there was a whole rash of complaints on social media about iPhone 6 and 6S devices just turning off randomly.
Okay. So they're not. There's some basis in fact for that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But what it really calls attention to is there's something wrong with Apple's batteries, or with the way that their phone handles batteries. But
right.
Here's a better question. I mean, perhaps you know better than me, but I thought one of the things that had happened since we stopped having user replaceable batteries on most phones and on most laptops, I might add, is that they're supposedly doing a better job of getting longer cycle batteries, right?
In the last decade, since 2007, battery technology has only increased about 30%.
No, I mean, I don't mean like the capacity for like wattage, but I mean the number of cycles before it loses charge.
So that factors into that 30%.
Okay, because I remember I've seen a few times, and we don't see this touted much anymore, so it's hard to say. A few times, I remember a few years ago. Remember there was what were they called? Boston Dynamics or something?
That's the robotics company?
No, okay, I'm getting this wrong.
That's okay.
It was Boston something, and they made batteries. And I remember doing a feature about them, and they said, yeah, we've done special chemistry, and our batteries, where a typical battery is made for 300 cycles, ours is made to be really good for like 1,000 cycles. Now, which would be like 3 years. Now, and I remember talking to, several other companies, laptop companies since then, and it was like, hey, if this battery's supposed to, start really degrading after a year, I mean, my career at laptop has been long enough that when I started there, you could replace the battery on most laptops. And now you can't. Right. And one of the things and you could on most phones too. And one of the things that we were told whenever I questioned it with manufacturers, like, well, what are you going to do when someone's battery starts losing a charge after this? Oh, don't worry. The chemistry is much better than it used to be. We think this thing's going to get at least 1,000 good cycles. So, which would be like, 3 years of charging and discharging. And that doesn't even necessarily mean that and that doesn't even necessarily mean that it would be dead after that. It just means it wouldn't be as full as it was then, because we all have things with batteries that are much older than that. Sure. So I do wonder
now. So yes, the chemistry has gotten better, and yes, companies have touted that. But in the last couple of years, we have seen more companies implement those. I know there are other devices that do it, but it's the thing that comes to mind. The Microsoft Band, it got to 90% charge in 30 minutes. And then the last 10% took longer. It had like 2 batteries, and one was like a rapid charge and one was a regular charge. When you rapid charge a battery like that, you cut down its maximum cycles.
Yeah, so I hear, which is yet another reason why it pains me inside that, to have devices with non-removable batteries. My current phone is my first phone to have a no, it's not my first. It's my last phone that I had for like 3 or 4 years was my Galaxy Note 3. It had a removable battery, and not only did I remove the battery, I got a double capacity battery.
I remember
and when
that.
it seemed to be losing some charge after a year and a half or 2 years, after 2.5 years, after a significant amount of time, I said, "Oh, why don't I just get another battery?" And for another $30, I got another battery. I was happy,
and you were off and running.
Extended the life of my phone and over another year. So now my phone, the Galaxy S8, has a built-in battery. It's been pretty good so far in the 6 months that I've had it. What's it going to be like in 2 years?
Right.
Especially when phone companies expect people now to keep a phone for more than 2 years.
Right.
I mean, they give you a payment plan on a lot of these things that's 30 months. Mm-hmm. So it used to be every 2 years they would expect you to change your phone because of the contracts. Now they know you're keeping it much longer, but they're not. To make a long story short, I blame Apple for this. They obviously did not use the highest quality batteries. I mean, I'd like to know, frankly, it would be good to know what are, how much charge are people getting after a period of time. Mm-hmm. I think that would be good to know. To do some more longitudinal studies of phones to see after 6 months, after a year, after 2 years, how much battery life are you getting?
I would love to run. I've got a 6S Plus around here. I'd love to run the battery test on it today and see how it compares to what you guys got when it first came out. I think that would be fascinating.
Yeah, I think it would.
We'll have to talk about that later.
Yeah. I mean, so that's the thing. It's a hard thing for us to track because we review phones and then we send them back.
Right.
So unless it's a phone one of us has, and you'd want to do it, I think, on the same exact unit just in case there's some subtle difference. So. Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to see what something basically brand new out of box and then something a year later and something 2 years later does on a battery like that.
Yep.
For sure.
Yep. I have an ambition one day to have like a battery test that is like to create the speedtest.net of battery tests. I don't know how to do that, but I have an ambition.
That's interesting because I have a prototype of that built.
Really?
I do. Anyway, that's fascinating. It's not the first time you and I have come up with similar ideas. Anyway, I'm totally with you, and in fact, in my article, I brought this up that I think this brings us back to an industry conversation of why can't I replace my own battery? If this is going to be a problem, even if it's just with Apple. If this is going to be a problem, Apple needs to make it so I can change my own battery, not so that they make the decision to slow down my device because they want to. I think that's a terrible solution to probably a fairly insignificant problem. The grand scheme of how many devices are out there, my guess is it happens very infrequently. And to slow everybody's device down for maybe 1,000 instances is infuriating. Give me the ability to replace my battery, and I think the whole world would be better.
I mean, I would like that, but barring that, because I know that, the idea is that you have to make your phone slim at the expense of making it so you can repair it. But I would like to see them disclose. I'd like to see all the companies disclose when you're buying it, like how many cycles is this battery rated for before it starts to really lose its charge.
Well, maybe
they
I'll
never advertise that.
Maybe I'll bring that up with the Consumer Technology Association when I talk to them on air.
I think more transparency about like the batteries and what they're supposed to do and battery life, because the battery life numbers people use are ridiculous. I think would be good.
The last time you and I threatened to create a movement inside the CTA, the problem started to get better. So maybe we just needed to threaten to create a group inside the CTA again. Anyway, obviously we don't know a whole lot. We do know that there's a lawsuit filed in LA, but we'll see what happens with that. They want a class action over the fact that Apple didn't disclose that they were doing this for a full year, and that Apple took it upon themselves to make a decision about how we use our devices, which is a whole different conversation, and one that we talked about with the Amazon Google thing a couple of weeks ago, which may end up coming back here in the end of the show. But yeah, so that's what we know for now. We will obviously, this is a fascinating, very strange story. We will definitely be following it as it continues. This week's Pilch Point with Avram Pilch is proudly powered by Monster Products. The headphones on my head right now, the Monster Elements, available in on-ear, in-ear, and full over-ear as well. But of course, that's not the only thing that they make. They make a whole line of headphones and earbuds, whether you're looking for little earbuds that you can work out with, or bigger speakers that you can use in your living room or carry with you, from the tiny hot shot all the way up to the Monster Blaster. They've got all kinds of speakers as well, and of course all of the cables and all of the power to connect these and all of the other devices in your life, whether it be your home theater or your computer, are all available by going to PLUGHITZlive.com/monster. And that music means that it is time for the Pilch Point with online editorial director of Laptop Magazine and Tom's Guide, Avram Pilch. Avram!
Hey! So, cut right to the chase. every now and again, we get, well, I wouldn't say every now and again, but it's always cool to get a product like a little bit early. Although I wouldn't say it's early because it's actually out, but it just came out like 2 days ago, so I don't think so what I have here is the Ubitech First Order Stormtrooper robot. It is a robot.
It's a robot.
As you can see, it's about what, a foot tall or so,
give or take.
So let's turn this on, and it has to actually boot up. So here, I'll try to angle down here so you can. Maybe not. Let's see. All right. So that's like, when you have your printer and you turn it on and it just like, moves around a lot for like annoyingly for 5 minutes.
That's so funny because that's exactly what I was just thinking.
I actually really hate that on printers, but and it's really mainly inkjets that do that, right? I mean, that's
yeah.
So anyway, wait, he's still booting up. Look at that. Anyway, okay, so all right.
Operating numbers received, Commander. Stand by while I secure communications.
Oh, it says stand by while I secure communications. Why? Because you need a tablet app to use this thing. So let me show you the tablet app. So, whoa, there's the tablet app. So right now, this is going to be available for Android as well, but at this very moment, it is only on iPad, so I have an iPad Pro here. So this is the app. It just came out, And unfortunately, it doesn't have a ton of functionality. So first thing first, it connects to the robot. Now, it doesn't do it via Bluetooth. It does it via Wi-Fi over your router, or you can do Wi-Fi direct to it. So now it is saying over here, incoming transmission. It appears you and your trooper are ready to go, or whatever. So you hit this button. Now, you can actually do a face capture on this, and it will scan your face, which unfortunately took like 5 tries. The robot has facial recognition. So to take a step back, here's what the robot actually has, right? It's a bipedal robot, so its legs move. Its arms move, but hands can't really do anything. I mean, there's a gun it comes with, but it can't do anything with it. It does voice recognition because it has microphones and speaker.
Okay.
And it has an IR camera slash kind of, I guess, regular camera under here that it, or I guess right here, that it can use to, I don't know, maybe it isn't an IR camera. It has a camera that it uses for facial recognition. It didn't say IR, so I should be careful about that. Anyway, so there's, once you do it and you hit take command, let's say I've already scanned my face because the face scanning part is annoying. You don't have to. There's 3 things that you can do with this basically right now. There is training, mission, and sentry modes. So training, let's go through these real quick. So training mode. Maybe I'll turn down the volume on this a little bit. Let's see. Oops, that was up. Okay, now it's mute. So anyway, he'll still talk though. This is the volume on the app.
Sure.
So you hit the thing, you hit the send order button, and now I have a choice. This is basically the programming part, but it doesn't really, they say that in the summer, maybe next summer, they'll actually have like a block-based coding language that you can use to really program this.
Okay.
Right now, it's really, really basic stuff. So you have this thing where you can, practice here just means move them around like remote control. And if I do the practice mode, let's try the practice mode just for the heck of it. It says ready for a practice run. You'll see here that this is just like I can just move him around using this like on-screen joystick, and it's supposed, oh, here, let me turn it on. You'll be able to see that you can actually, it's very meta, I know. You can actually see what he sees. So, but you can't, so he's moving, and I'm moving him, and I can also use this to like move his head. This little eye thing here to move his head. So moving him around, it doesn't capture video, it doesn't capture stills. You can do a screen capture though, but using standard iOS way of screen capturing, but it doesn't. Apparently Disney, who licenses this to Ubi Tech, is very concerned about privacy, so they don't build any recording into it. Anyway, so you have various actions you can assign him. Here's one I did, and it just basically has him turn his head and say something, or turn his body and say something. So, and like here's where you create them. So like here's create action. So it's ready to learn a new action. And if I go in here, right, you'll see that like there's a bunch of like different categories of action, like action, recon, security. And then you basically a bunch of quotes you can say, and then you like, oh, I want to create a new action. Great. I'm going to create an action where he says, Commander, sensors indicate targets or an area, and where he shrugs his shoulders, and then I'm going to save that, and then I can use it in the next section where he walks around. I mean, I'm not too impressed with having him shrug his shoulders or walk a little bit and say something. And not something, you can't design what he says. There's like a set of maybe, I don't know, several dozen things he can say.
Sure.
So that's the training mode. Then there's the mission mode, which is arguably the coolest, the best, the most fun mode, but it kind of begs you the question of why you actually need the robot. So what you do is, so what this is, okay, so I can have easy, normal, or hard. Right now, there's only one mission zone I can go to, and that's Jakku. Although they told me when I met with the folks at Movie Tech that they're going to add content over time. They're going to add lots of content to this over time, they say. So maybe that will, add more levels and more interesting stuff. So I'm just going to say, I'll just go the easy, whatever. So what it says here is we've discovered resistance activity on Jakku. Go find some data tapes and destroy some rebels.
I'm deploying to Jakku.
So what it does is it gives you this map, right? And you can see and watch, and you tell it like where to go on the map. So, okay, I want to go to this part here, right? So I'm going to have him go like this. I'm going to move him because he's probably going to so see, I put that on there, told him where to go. Now I'm going to hit this button here to make it happen. Now look at what I see on this. Besides looking at him, look at what I see on the screen. So it's a weird AR thing where you see Jakku, but you also see my window here that he's walking toward.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that's weird about this is, though, that there's actually no reason to see my window here. Like, I've seen some AR games where, stuff flies onto the real world.
Right.
But here, if the sky were blue instead of being my house, it would make no difference.
Right.
Right, to the game. So I think he's having a problem because he's stuck. One sec. He's stuck because I've got stuff over there. He's actually supposed to be smart and stop himself when he hits an object, but apparently maybe not. Actually, I don't know if it's to stop himself when he hits an object or stop himself from falling. We'll see. So anyway, when he gets to where he's going, so again, the robot is walking, but you could argue that, I would argue, that you could play a first-person perspective game like this with no robot, and it would be about the same experience.
Yeah.
So once he gets there, he's a little confused because, again, he's walking into the keyboard that I have here. Let's see. Move him a little bit. Maybe he'll chill out now. Come on. So when he gets to where he's supposed to go, you'll see... Okay, he's finally going to get to where he's supposed to go. All right, so when he gets to where he's supposed to go, you're going to see something... there'll be something to do. So, okay, so he says, sensors indicate targets in the area. Do you want to conduct a search? So now what you do is you hit this thing that looks like an eyeball, and then you see there's a little crosshairs on the screen, and you move it around. And he actually does move his head, but what really matters to the game is that what the perspective is in the game. So you look around, and then eventually you'll find, if you move your head enough, you'll find a rebel ship or something, a rebel or a data tape.
Okay.
And if it's a rebel ship, you hit a button to destroy it. The robot actually doesn't really do anything except say good job or whatever. And on the screen, you see lasers shooting down to shoot the rebel ship. So basically the whole game is you walk around this board, you shoot the rebel ships that you see indicated by the two rebel symbols, and you pick up the data tapes that you see indicated by the data tape symbols, and that's the game. So let's go back and let me just show you the last mode, the sentry mode. Do I want to quit this mission? Yes, I do. Thank you. Yes, let me quit the mission. All right. Finally, there's sentry mode. Okay. Says, so what sentry mode is this, right? You can start a patrol or create a patrol. What's a patrol? It's basically having him walk on the floor and walk around the floor and look for people. And if it runs into a person, it will see if it can facially recognize them from having scanned them before. So if I create a patrol here, I will, have him walk a little bit or something, and then I think I have to add the part where I actually prompt you for. It's the part where I prompt you for. I think let's try this. Start this patrol. Receiving his commands, and we'll start shortly. So, okay. Okay, so.
Hold it. Something's not right here.
So he said, "Hold it. Something's not right here." It says, "Step forward and look into my visor for identification." So that's where he does this, the face scan of you, right? So I'm going to look at him.
Step forward and tell me the passcode.
Now it asks me for the passcode.
Okay.
I don't know the passcode.
Not clear. Leave this area now.
So he says, leave this area now, rebel scum. If you say the passcode, he says, carry on.
Okay.
So that's the game. That's what it does. So those are all the features that I just showed you of this robot. In the future, it's supposed to have new action levels. You'll be able to program it. And we talked about, that it's got, that it can walk, it can move its arms, but not pick up things with these hands. And it has a camera and microphones and a speaker. And by the way, the battery life on this is actually pretty good. It's supposed to last about 2 hours, and we used it on an awful lot, and it didn't run out of juice too easily. And it charged up fully in like an hour. So battery life is pretty good. So now, my first question to you, how much do you think this is worth, and what would you pay for it?
How much do I think it's worth, or how much do I think it goes for?
Okay, let's say goes for.
Let's see. The BB-8 Hero is $149. The regular BB-8 MSRP is $99. This doesn't have the majority of what that has, but it does have the Star Wars name on it. I'm going to guess that its retail is probably $69.
Dollars?
Yes.
Okay. Go up a lot. A lot.
Am I off by half?
Oh boy, you're off by a lot.
Oh no.
This is $299.
No.
This is $299.
No.
So in talking to the folks at MovieTech, who, by the way, MovieTech makes some great stuff. They make the Jimu robots, which are wonderful learning kits. Some of those are actually started under $100. They make the Lynx robot, which is an Alexa-powered robot. And technologically, inside this robot has. All right. Okay. He says he lost communication because this probably went to sleep. So, technologically, and they were saying how expensive it is to build a robot with these components. Making it they said it would have been a lot less expensive if it had wheels instead of feet, instead of being bipedal. And I'm sure it does cost them a fair amount to make, but I don't know who will want to spend $300 for it at this point.
When I worked for Radio Shack, we had what they called the Robo-Raptor, which was a two-legged RC Raptor thing, and it retailed for like $69 10 years ago. So they can't blame too much of it on being a two-legged thing. If WowWee was able to do it a decade ago for $69.
Yeah, I honestly, don't know. How can we ever know how much something really costs to make unless, we see some secret company document? Obviously, they're also paying a lot for the license, for the IP licensing, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But
they didn't have the benefit that Sphero had of getting the license to make the BB-8 remote control guys for cheap because they built the real one for the film.
Oh, is that so? Yeah, I don't know. Another thing to know about this robot is it was supposed to come out a while ago, and they just managed to like, I don't know. I think people were expecting it. At least I think people were expecting it to come out sooner. And the company came. Just put it out to ship on like December 20th or December 21st.
Oof.
Now, if you're planning to release something for the holiday season, you usually don't come out with it 5 days before Christmas.
Yeah. No, November 20th, maybe. Not December 20th.
So, it does feel like they were, it does feel a little bit like they were trying to get it out the door.
Uh-huh.
Because, I mean, the first version of the app that we tried actually had a lot of connectivity problems the same day on yesterday. And then the same day, when we wrote to them, they said, wow, this thing isn't connecting at all. And then the same day they said, hey, we uploaded a new version of the app. And like at night, it worked a lot better than during the day.
Interesting.
So, and I know this was announced a while ago. So, and, like I said, the Android version's not out yet, and they say they're going to add a lot more content next year. So, I guess it really depends. I wouldn't say that nobody should ever get this, but I guess it really depends on, do you really like the premise of having a Stormtrooper robot, and just how much does $300 mean to you? I suppose if, because it does seem like I would want more functionality out of anything that I bought for $300.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I suppose they could add more levels to that thing, and they could add more actions, and they will eventually add coding, which I think will definitely improve the value of this a great deal, because if kids can use it to learn to code, that certainly makes it interesting, more interesting. But I feel like even if it was had a lot more functionality, the price would be very high for what it is.
Yeah, for sure.
But you tell me, does that seem like, would you get this for $100?
Would I? No. But I'm not a big Star Wars fan, so I'm probably not a great example. But the idea of it is certainly interesting, and if they opened up, particularly if they opened up the API for it and allowed me to do my own programming to it, because that's the thing that's made Sphero successful, is that you can use their app, you can use their things, but you can also open up Visual Studio and do whatever you want with it. And it doesn't matter whether it be just the regular Sphero ball or the little dog bone looking thing or the BB-8. You can control it programmatically yourself. And I think that's been part of why Sphero's been successful. If they gave me that capability, then at $100 for sure, at $149 for sure, I'd be interested in it, because it would be an interesting thing to be able to use with the robotics teams and stuff like that, because it's a thing they're already familiar with. But in its current state, no.
Yeah, I think, the other thing is that this is, not to belabor this too much longer, I'll just end it with this. When I was talking to the guy from Ubi Tech, who was very nice and did a great job of demoing this to us, one competitor he mentioned was Anki Cosmo. And I think actually that's a good comparison. So are you familiar with Anki Cosmo?
Enough.
So, for the audience, Anki Cosmo is another little robot. It's made by the Anki company that makes Anki Overdrive. And it's a little, I guess you could say, it almost looks like a Wall-E or Johnny Number 5 type of character.
Uh-huh.
It's got a little scoop, and it's got like 3 little blocks that it plays with. And there's a number of interactive games that it plays with you, with moving the blocks around and you trying to like slap its little scoop or something. And it uses facial recognition to actually say different things to different people. Like you can, it knows your name and it talks to you in its weird voice or whatever.
And it's got a screen on it too. It's got a screen on it too, right?
It's got a little LED screen. I mean, it's not like it's like a little blue screen with a few pixels. It's not like it's not like it's a monitor or something.
Right. But, but it's able to do like I think they use it for like virtual eyes, right?
Yes, they do use it for virtual eyes, and I think it can be used for other things. And the facial recognition in it is really good. Like this, I actually had problems with it scanning me. As you could see, it actually didn't recognize me when I stared at it. It seemed to have problems scan. I had to try it like 5 times and took my glasses off or something before it did scan me. But even if that's correct, the only thing that you get out of it scanning you is if is in the sentry mode where it will say move along. That's great. And if it doesn't scan you, then it asks for the password. And if you don't know the password, which I deliberately didn't know it, but it's like you have a choice of 5 passwords, like First Order, Kylo Ren, and a couple of others.
Okay.
So there's also no custom anything. Like you can't say like, oh, I wanted to talk a particular phrase that I put in,
right,
or I wanted to recognize a particular phrase that I put in. So
I want the password to be monkey.
Yeah. You can't. Maybe someday they'll have that because the hardware certainly is capable. Seems like it's capable of it, but what are you really getting out of the facial recognition? Like at least the Cosmo, the Cosmo kind of acts like a pet in some ways. Now, I personally don't really want a robot that acts like an well, it's not an anthropomorphic, like a robot that acts like a pet or acts like my buddy. I want it to just like be a tool or, something for me to fool or, to mess around with and program. But whether you view it as sort of like a toy or like an experimental thing, right now, the fun factor, the like playability of this is very, very limited,
For sure.
And it's hard to see where even with improving the play and adding some programming that it would get to like $300 worth of value when you look at some of the things that are out there that are like real robot kits that you can learn with and really do a lot of serious programming with. I think Mindstorm's a little bit more expensive than this. I think that's like $350 right now. But there are a lot of kits that are a lot less, even from Ubi Tech, which makes the Jimu robots that you build and program. So, I mean, here, just one real quick thing. I have one right behind me. So, this robot here, made by the same company. You had to build it. It has all kinds of motors and treads. You can control it. The software, which I don't have on this iPad to show you, has a block-based coding language and a lot of other stuff. You can make, with this kit that comes with it, you can actually take this apart and make 2 or 3 other things or build a custom thing. How much do you think this is worth? How much do you think this goes for?
How much do I think that goes for? I'd say, based on the fact that I know that the other little guy, I think, normally retails for $179. This doesn't have all the personality and stuff of it. Maybe $129?
$89.
Ah, that's awesome.
I mean, this is a lot of the Gmus are like $200, $300, but this is called, I think, the Builder Kit, the Builder Bot.
Okay.
It's definitely the best deal that they have. But anyway, if you think about it, you will get a lot more, like just if you were thinking about hours of your life of enjoyment and education that you would get from something that you spent money on. You spend $89 on this and you'll get, hours and hours and hours. And if you really want to put in the time, many hours of fun and learning. You spend $300 on this and, so far there's not a lot to do with it. So that's kind of, it's interesting. I like where they're going in the sense of having a Star Wars robot and having facial recognition. But it's disappointing at this point anyway. But
sure.
Wanted to show everyone because it's pretty cool to look at. And that's my shtick for today.
So obviously you have it in your possession. There's no way we're not going to get an official review on this. When and where can we expect that?
Okay. So tomsguide.com, we will have a review up probably slightly after Christmas. My colleague Andrew Friedman started working on it, then I took it home to test it because we were having the problems with it, and then with the app update, it worked okay. I should mention that for a list of robots that we do highly recommend, go to Tom's Guide, where we have a list of the best robot kits for kids. This is on it near the top.
I would imagine so.
So that and Lego Boost and Lego Mindstorm, things that really allow you to build something and give you some coding experience and are extensible in lots of ways. Those are things that you're not going to buy it for your kid and they're going to put it aside after a day.
Right. Yeah, and that's really important. And unfortunately, at least for right now, with the capabilities that it has right now, it seems like this is the kind of thing that gets put away after a couple of days, and it just becomes a Stormtrooper on a shelf.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll see some great new features come to it in the future that'll make it something more worth considering. Well, as always, Avram, I always love your show and tells, especially on things that are like brand new on the shelves for a day or two.
Yep.
And we will see what we talk about next week. This week's Extra Life on F5 Live is proudly powered by Razer. All the gaming accessories that you need to really enhance your PC or console gaming experience available from Razer. Right now, there are still a lot of deals available that run through the 29th. So, theoretically, just getting started today. We've got the Razer Mamba Tournament Edition mouse on sale for $59. There's the Lance Head Tournament for $59. There's the Firefly mouse pad for $49, and a lot more, including some deals where you get games along with a laptop if you're looking. And in case you didn't know, Razer offers student discounts. So if you sign up with a student email address or can provide student credentials, then you can get special discounts and special prices just for students. And you can find out about all of that by going to f5live.tv/Razer. So if you were a gamer in the 90s, one of the things that you looked forward to was Nintendo Power Magazine. It was kind of the magazine for gaming because, Nintendo kind of owned the market at that point. And the magazine really saw a cut in the early 2000s and then went away altogether in 2012. But this week, Nintendo Power is back, kind of. It's not back as a print magazine. Instead, it is back as a podcast. It is hosted by Chris Slate, who was the editor-in-chief of Nintendo Power Magazine for 5 years and is now the corporate communications manager for Nintendo of America. So it's an official Nintendo licensed thing. It is Nintendo Power. All the things that we loved about the magazine, from interviews. In this case, there's interviews with the producer and director of Breath of the Wild. There's also discussion about this year, 2017, which was a huge turnaround year for Nintendo after several years of really having some financial trouble. The Switch totally turned that around, and he talks about all of that in there, and I think that's really great. I think it's good to see something like Nintendo Power come back, especially at a time when Nintendo does have power again in the industry and is really starting to thrive on its own. It's good to see Nintendo getting excited about themselves again. Were you ever a subscriber, Avram?
Unfortunately not. I was not a big Nintendo player in the 90s. So I was playing more PC games at the time. But I think it's cool to have any magazine that comes back as a podcast.
Yeah. That's able to find its place in the new media space.
So I have an idea.
Okay.
I have an idea for somebody. In fact, this is such a good idea. I know exactly what I want to share it. I belong to a Facebook group called like Computer Magazine History,
Okay.
if you can believe that. Um,
I can
it's a
believe
compu-
that.
my friend Harry McCracken, I think, started it because he worked at PC World for many years, and
Sure.
his career goes back a long way. And so there were people on there, many of whom older than me, who actually wrote for some of these defunct magazines that people were posting up like old photos of the covers and articles and stuff like that, and people asking like, what's your favorite old computer magazine? So I'll extend this to any tech magazine, gaming magazine as well. Would you say your favorite now defunct magazine is Nintendo Power?
It's probably in the top of the list. Yeah. I always enjoyed it. It was by Nintendo for Nintendo, and it had that feel. Like if Microsoft had published a Windows magazine, a real like from us for us kind of thing, which I always liked. So yeah, I'd say it's probably at the top of the list.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to bring back Compute.
Yeah.
I would love to find. I don't know if any of the people who made it are still around, but I have extremely fond. I mean, there are a lot of computer magazines that I loved, that I loved, and it was always my dream to work for one. So when I got this job, even though we were in print when I started, it was really a dream come true, and I'm still pinching myself every day for it. But Compute. The thing that I have really fond memories about Compute is that, do you remember they actually had the programs in there? So you had to sit there and type them in. Oh man, if you made a typo, I remember going through like some of them were like really small print or something. You go through like 10 pages, typing it in, and then you'd save it to the cassette tape, whatever. But you just don't see. I haven't seen a magazine or even really a podcast yet that's like, do this. Now, how you would do that in a podcast, I guess it better be a video one.
I was thinking, what would you do? Would you just read out the code verbally? And
yeah, maybe it's video. It's like, freeze this frame. Actually, it'd be kind of funny if you actually did try reading out the code. Let's listen there, type this. But and you'll create you'll have it say hello world. But anyway, I think it's great. I think it's great that they're doing that, and I'd like to see more of the cool publications that have kind of lost, kind of gone away, come back. So
yeah. The only concern I have about this is there's no indication of frequency, which worries me a little bit. There's also the fact that the one and only episode that's been published so far is published via SoundCloud, which is not a sign of a serious podcast, more of a hobbyist thing, which is a concern to me. I would like to see Nintendo really take this seriously, and not play around on SoundCloud. I know who we work with, but go contact Blueberry, contact Libsyn, contact Podbean. I think that's one. We work with Blueberry. It's the one that my mind goes to immediately. Yeah, go. Nintendo can deal with doing this for real. And I hope that they decide to go that way. I'd also like to see them go video with this if they go serious, because it is a video game podcast. So it'd be nice to see, gameplay and stuff like that. If it's anything like the magazine announced new games in it, just like Game Informer and stuff like that do today. So that would be a whole lot easier to do if they were doing a video podcast, but that's just me. I'm just excited that they're back, and I hope Nintendo's going to take it seriously.
Yeah, hope so.
This week's news from the tubes on F5 Live is proudly powered by Riff Tracks. Make fun of movies, or, let the professionals do it for you. Though, the guys who used to do Mystery Science Theater 3000 are back and doing what they do best, making fun of movies. From blockbusters to Jack Frost, they've got a little bit of everything. The way it normally works is for a couple of dollars, you download the MP3, play it along with the DVD, Netflix, Amazon, wherever the movie happens to exist, and laugh. From time to time, they do some live shows. 2017 is done. We'll hear about 2018, hopefully in the coming months. Right now, they've got some deals on some of their movies. Christmas Circus, which sounds wonderfully horrible, is currently $2 off through Christmas Day. And all of their stuff's a lot of fun, whether it be the movies, the live events, or the shorts. You can find out about all of it by going to f5live.tv/rifftracks with an X. So this week, Alphabet, which used to be Google, weird restructure thing that most people don't remember, announced that their executive chairman, Eric Schmidt, would be stepping down as of their next board of directors meeting, which is at the beginning of the year. Eric Schmidt has been with the company for almost 17 years. It will be just shy of when he steps down in 2018. He came in as the executive chairman in 2001 and quickly became the CEO, and then stepped back into the executive chairman position when who was it? Was it Larry or Sergey came back? I think it was Larry Page came back, and he took the CEO title again, and Eric Schmidt stepped back to executive chairman. The comment from the company has been very vague on why this is happening, why it's happening now. Basically, he said that we all believe, and by we all, he means Larry Page, Sergey Brin, and Sundar, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Pichai? I don't know.
I think so.
The three at the top of the Alphabet pyramid all believe that the time is right in Alphabet's evolution for this transition. The structure's working well, and Google and the other bets are thriving. That does not seem... like, that doesn't give any information.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the timing is just as Google and Amazon are going to war over a bunch of things. It's also seemingly at the height, and all of this is just what's happening in the world. It's at the height of the Me Too phenomenon. It's also as Google and the government are falling out of love with one another. So there's certainly a lot of things happening both in Google's culture and in the corporate culture as a whole in the United States that are unique right now and a little bizarre. I don't know if any of that has anything to do with it. The Amazon and or the fight with the government are your most likely candidates, but Google hasn't been immune to some sexual harassment claims themselves. Maybe the company hasn't handled them well when they found out. Who knows? It's just such a bizarre thing to happen. Basically, the guy that the world knows as leading not the day-to-day but the vision of the corporation stepping away after 17 years is seemingly a bizarre move.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose we'll find out more about this. All we can do now is speculate.
Yeah.
You know, I suppose we'll find out more about it eventually. It sounds to me like he has personal reasons. You know, maybe the personal reason is another opportunity that he wants to pursue.
Sure.
Maybe the personal reason is that he would like to, get away from the day-to-day grind of being a big corporate executive and cash out, the money that he obviously has made plenty of money.
Sure.
Maybe he wants to become a philanthropist now or something. I mean, who knows?
That's one of the current popular theories. He has gotten into doing a lot of government lobbying for climate change in particular. So maybe he's going to take the Bill Gates route. Bill Gates stayed on the board of directors of Microsoft when he stepped away, which, as a note, Schmidt will also be staying on the board of directors. He just won't be the executive chairman anymore. And Bill Gates went off and started working with mosquito nets in Africa. I've got a shirt at home that has the logo for his nonprofit for mosquito netting. It's possible that's Schmidt's plan too, is to go off and use the money that he's earned to do things in the world. And I think that would be, I always like to see people do that. It's always disappointing to me when they step away and go like buy a baseball team or something. I'd much rather them go try and make a legitimate difference in the world, unless buying the baseball team is the thing that generates more revenue so that they can go do that. But that seems to never be the thing.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Bill Gates has done a lot of great things since he left his day-to-day role at Microsoft. So it's it'd be cool if Schmidt decides to do the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. Although, to be fair, Bill Gates did recently tweet that he went to France to find out why toilets stink. So it seems like from time to time he researches things that we all already understand. I think we all know why toilets stink. But, in the grand scheme of things, yes, Bill Gates has definitely gone off and done some good things. The malaria stuff in particular is probably my favorite of the things he's worked on. And hopefully that's his plan here too, because he's already into that world. Maybe he's going to take the extra time to go do it for real. This week's DRM, not included on F5 Live, is proudly powered by Amazon Prime. We all know that with Amazon Prime, you get free shipping, sometimes same day. There's a lot of cool shipping things you get, but what not everybody knows is you get other features as well, including Amazon Prime videos, which gives you all kinds of movies and original TV shows, back catalog of HBO content, all kinds of interesting stuff included in your Prime subscription. There's Amazon Prime Music, which has a couple million tracks available to stream for free. And if you're a Prime subscriber, you get a better price off of Amazon Music Unlimited. There's Amazon Prime Photos, which is unlimited photo storage, which is important, especially with what we saw with Blue a couple of weeks ago. We've been recommending that people make sure that all of their photos are backed up from their phones, and this is a great included free way for you to do it. And of course, Twitch Prime, which gives you a free subscription to your favorite streamers on Twitch every month, which is a great way to support your streamers that you enjoy. There's that and a lot more. And if you're not already a Prime subscriber, we've got a 30-day free trial and all of the information about a number of the benefits available by going to f5live.tv/Amazon. Speaking of Amazon, there has been an interesting little war brewing. We mentioned it in the last segment between Amazon and Google. Amazon has refused to sell Google hardware, in particular Chromecast and Google Home, In fact, they refused to sell Apple TV until about a week ago. And then in retaliation or in negotiation tactics, Google said that they weren't going to, they were going to pull YouTube from Fire TV and the Echo Show, which the Echo Show comes up in a couple of days, and I think, or it already happened, I don't remember. And then I think January 1st, it goes away from Fire TV. Now, obviously, there was no way that that was where the story was going to end. And I think we were pretty clear about that this was going to get a lot weirder as time went on. And it's true. It has absolutely happened. First, Amazon has started selling a couple of Google products. They brought some of the Nest stuff back. They're selling the Apple TV again, so they're not necessarily as afraid of competition as they were before. But YouTube is still the big thing that Google has to try and get all of their products on Amazon. And it seems like maybe that's going to backfire. And here's why. Amazon, it appears, might be either actually planning to or pretending to plan to, as a negotiation tactic, launch their own YouTube competitor. There's a couple of reasons for this belief, but the most important is a couple of trademark filings from the company that include Amazon Tube and OpenTube. Both trademarks have been registered to Amazon in the last couple of days, and a couple of new domain names that fall into that same naming category. Alexa OpenTube, Amazon OpenTube, Amazon Alexa Tube, and a number of other domains have also been registered to Amazon. So it's possible that they're trying to come up with a competitor. It's possible that they're trying to make Google think they're trying to come up with a competitor. What do you think, Avram?
So first of all, the fact that they're registering names that have tube in it seems strange to me that they couldn't. I mean, you know what? I don't know enough about trademark law for this, but I believe that you don't have to have exactly the same name as someone to violate their trademark.
That's true.
Like
if it produces a confusion on the brand, then it can be denied a trademark, or a trademark can be overturned, or it can infringe an existing trademark.
Right. So the fact that they're using tube in it, and it sounds so derivative. Like, because, I mean, you don't have to have tube in the name for it to be user-submitted video. I mean,
right.
Vimeo is not called Vimeo Tube.
Right. There was the service VidMe that just shut down this week that didn't have tube in it at all.
Right. So that's a really particular, you know, that's like if somebody calls, I mean, I actually do think that people were able to sort of glam onto an iPhone, right? Because there's a whole bunch of other things that were named something.
There's a company called iDevices that makes a grill thermometer.
Oh, listen, there's iLove. iHome.
Mm-hmm. At least with iHome, their original intention was to make iPhone and iPod accessories, but the grill thermometer is probably my favorite.
Right. So there, you know, and I guess that Apple must have figured out that they can't sue people for that.
And they've walked away from that branding themselves. Even iTunes Podcasts has become Apple Podcasts. They're seemingly backing away from the I branding as much as possible.
Yeah. It's also lame because, you know, that's like having E in things like e-commerce. Like, now, I mean, you should probably stop calling it email and just call it mail. The other one should just be called like paper mail or something, because the one that you do more often should be the short one. The one that you know, you shouldn't be surprised that it's email anymore. Like electronic mail. Oh, wow. What will they think of next? Right. Anyway, where we're getting this. So I am surprised by the by the names, and it almost seems like they're not trying. So that could just be an idle threat.
It could also mean that Amazon is going to build their own client.
You mean they could build their own client for YouTube?
Absolutely. YouTube has a very, very robust API. The Windows Store has dozens of YouTube clients, and it's very possible that OpenTube, in particular, that name OpenTube, is Amazon's kind of sticking it to Google, saying that this is what you get for having an open API, I guess.
Now, I kind of feel Google's pain here a little bit, as much as you can feel the pain for two companies that have a lot of money and are dominant in their industry. Because, I mean, Amazon has really taken a lot of stuff from that Google originated and is making money off of it. And they won't even, like, where do you think they would be? The Fire tablets are Android.
Right.
But to, keep people in the Amazon ecosystem and make money off of them, you don't get the Google Play Store on your Amazon tablet.
Right, because it's technically OAP. It's not Android proper.
Right, but I mean, like, who's, it's a little. I mean, I understand they're allowed to do it. So Amazon, so Amazon's making out on things that Google, powers.
Sure.
I'm sure Amazon gets a lot of referrals from Google,
Sure.
Although interestingly, Amazon prices do not show up in Google shopping search.
That's true.
I don't know if you noticed that. Amazon product pages show up in web search, but they don't show up if you're like doing a shopping search and you want to price shop. Amazon's not in there.
Right.
Not sure why, but
especially considering what a great affiliate program that Amazon has, it seems like Google could make all kinds of money. Whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I don't know if it's Google who doesn't want to be there or Amazon who doesn't want to. I don't know. But
fair enough.
It is a really harsh reality when you don't have the Google apps. Like, I think this is the number one problem that Windows 10s faces, frankly, and the Windows Store faces. Yeah, you could get a knockoff YouTube, but like, I think people really want. Wasn't there also a recent incident where Google put a link to download Chrome in the Microsoft Store?
Yeah. They put an application that just opened an installer.
Right. So, it's I mean, there's some fault to go around there, because really, like, they're not allowed in this. I don't think they're allowed to to post the actual Chrome browser in there. I don't think that they can make a what do you call it, Windows Store version of Chrome.
A UWP?
Yeah, I mean, I think they could, but it wouldn't have their engine, right? It would just be a UI on top.
I actually think that Microsoft is the only one that doesn't have that rule.
Oh, because I in Windows 10s, for example.
But you wouldn't be able to set it as your default browser.
Right, but I think in Windows 10s, I remember discussing this with someone at Microsoft, I think, and it was like Windows 10s. I mean, Windows 10s, you can do Windows Store apps.
Mm-hmm.
And and I thought there was something about how, yes, Google could make a version of Chrome, but it would still have to use the Edge rendering engine or something like
that. Could be a change in policy. I know in the past, like in 8 and 8.1, that was not a requirement. You could build your own rendering engine in C++, because I know people who did.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but I remember reading that somewhere.
That's totally possible. Apple and Google both have that rule. That you have to use their native rendering. At least Apple does. Google, I think.
You sure? I think
I think
Firefox and Edge are not using the Chrome.
Edge absolutely is.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yes, I know for a fact Edge is. They in their announcement they published about it that it wasn't the. I can't think of the name of the new. Something with an M, I think. The new rendering engine that they were using Google's.
Man, you live long enough, everything becomes legal because like I don't know if you remember in like 1999, 2000, this was the basis of the antitrust case against Microsoft. Was that they were preloading IE and they were trying to use leverage their position as an operating system vendor to become the leading browser vendor. Well, what's worse, preloading your browser or fixing it so anyone who wants to make a browser has to basically make an exact clone of yours?
Well, in the 90s, if Microsoft did it, it was no good. But in the 2000s, if Google does it or Apple does it, it's fine.
Oh, okay.
That seems to be the general rule in the industry anymore.
Yeah, but so I guess the best place to the only place where real browser freedom is possible is Win32. And Linux.
And Mac OS.
I thought Mac OS you also have to use Safari.
Probably if it comes from the store. You probably do, but if you install it side, you probably don't. Because I don't think I think Chrome uses the Chrome engine if it's still available on Mac.
But anyway,
I know in the old days Microsoft made IE for Mac OS X, and it was using the IE rendering engine.
So I mean. I think there's nothing like having the actual Google-approved YouTube, Chrome, Docs, and Play Store. So, I hope they work it out in some way. But it reminds me a lot of cable companies today, and the fact that you'll have like. Comcast owns NBC, so they may have a more contentious relationship with like CBS or ABC,
sure,
or Fox or something, because it's competing with their own thing.
Yeah, for sure.
So Amazon doesn't want, Google's competing products on its website, although. That's extremely bizarre, and because there's a lot of competing products to their products on their site.
Yes,
and
there are.
They wouldn't have a business without it.
There are a lot of Chromecast devices. There are just not the Google official ones.
Well, and there's a lot of things on there that compete with, like, if the point is that, like, oh, Google stuff competes with our stuff, well, wait a second. Google makes a speaker and you make a speaker, like Google Home, Google Assistant, and Alexa stuff. But yes, Google makes. Do they even still make the Pixel C tablet? Google made a tablet, but and they didn't carry it. And Google made and they make tablets and the Fire tablets, but that doesn't stop them from carrying like hundreds of other Android tablets that are not from Google.
Right, absolutely.
Right? It doesn't stop them from carrying other TV things, that are not from, like
they don't carry the Google Home, which is Google's Google Assistant powered speaker, but they do carry the Harman Kardon Invoke, which is the Cortana powered speaker. Although I guess the two of them do have a relationship because Cortana and Alexa are going to be able to talk to each other. So maybe that's not as good of an example. It'll be interesting to see whether they have the HomePod if that ever actually happens.
But they're carrying a lot of things that use Google stuff.
Yeah,
let's put it that way. Chromebooks, Android stuff. They'd be in serious hurting if they decide to get rid of all things that are involved with Google.
Yeah, or that are involved in any of their competitors, because
Right.
Amazon and Microsoft compete on a number of fronts, and the two of them seem to be good friends now.
Exactly.
What did Microsoft do that Google refuses to build a good relationship versus this incredibly contentious relationship? I mean, it's not, when you look at the cloud front, it's not Google that's challenging Amazon, it's Microsoft. And that's where they make a lot of their money, is on their AWS stuff. And Microsoft's the one that's set to unseat them, and yet that's the company they've got a good relationship with. It's all so bizarre. There has to be something more to this than we know why the two of them aren't friends. There's got to be more than, we don't want Chromecast on Amazon. It just seems like such a schoolyard fight. But whatever, it's not the longer they continue this weirdness, the more we have to talk about. And that is our show. Thank you to those of you who joined us live on a special night here on a Friday night. We definitely appreciate it. We will be back again next week. I don't know that Avram and I have talked about when to do next week's oddball show, but my guess is it'll probably be Friday or Saturday. Just a guess, but I don't know when exactly Avram's available. So we'll talk about that, and we'll post it on social media this week, exactly when we'll be doing the show. But you can expect it to be, early weekend, probably, if not the early week afterwards. Anyway, like we said, lots of content coming, and lots of stuff coming from Laptop Mag and Tom's Guide all the time, including the review of our little Stormtrooper friend there. Sometime in the coming week, maybe they'll find some stuff that they didn't know about and change their feelings on it. Who knows? We will find out when the review is published. But again, thank you for joining us if you were live. If not, thank you for subscribing at PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. There you can see all of our series and subscribe to any and all of them on any of the platforms. We don't care if you're on Google or Amazon or Windows or Apple. We're everywhere, guys. So thank you for subscribing. And I guess on behalf of the staff that's not here, I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we will see you guys back next week. Ciao.